TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am, the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time for some tea time wagers with Brady Kannon, at the Zurich Classic. A little team event here, probably a breath of fresh air for everyone in the PGA not named Scotty Sheffer, and we'll get to that, of course, here. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. If you haven't downloaded the app, head on over to Google Play, download it. It's free. Get used to the app. Download the sports books and casinos available in your state. Take advantage of the match plays, the promos, etc. is there. But the big key to success here is to get acclimated. Start to window shop. Why pay minus 128 on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight when you can get them at minus 109 right down the corner and never leave your couch? So, but we'll get to the educational purposes for another show. Today, we bring Brady on to talk about the Classic and a little bonus play with some live action as well. But without further ado, let's bring in the star of this show, the one and only Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, great to be with you again, my friend. And you're exactly right. You said a breath of fresh air, a breather. You know, we can exhale a little bit, however you want to spin it. It was 2 grueling weeks with the Masters and then a signature event at the RBC Heritage. So now it's more of a casual, fun event. Guys get to team up, something we don't see certainly every week on tour. They're down in the Big Easy, a perfect place to hold this type of thing. And it's kind of nice. I like the fact that we're mixing it up a little bit. It's not an event that I bet or risk a lot of money on because it's a very difficult handicap, but it's fun to watch, fun to see how these guys interact, how they play together. We've had 16 straight weeks on tour with just a standard stroke play format. We don't have the match play anymore. They used to hold that in March and got rid of that. So this is the first time we've had anything different. And yeah, it kind of lets you relax from the high intensity stuff we've had the past couple of weeks. But at the same time, it's a welcomed breath of fresh air, like you say.
I'm going to go back to last weekend, and I said this backstage. You might get a chuckle out of this. When we were doing our show last week, I brought up the Masters, and someone that I thought slipped through the cracks, and that was Patrick Cantlay. I thought, and he'd had great success at the RBC Heritage, and I asked you your thoughts there on a pre-flop, and what I did on Friday night, Saturday morning is I released Cantlay at 10-1. I know Scotty was right there. He was going to be the horse to catch, but I thought Cantlay to win was at a decent price, and even a top 5 was plus 150. But here's the laughter. Bogey-free round on Saturday, plus 900, and he lips out a 2-footer on 18 for a bogey.
Oh, goodness gracious. That is pretty tough, a 2-footer. And then I thought you were going to say, talking about a laugher. How about how he decided to continue playing after the stoppage of play because of darkness on Sunday and got his ball all the way to the edge of the green on 18 and then kind of looked around and said, you know what, it's getting pretty dark, and quit just to wake up 12 hours later and hit 2 shots and get out of Dodge. I thought that was pretty funny too.
And I did say that out loud on Monday. We cashed the plus 150. Anyone that played the top 5, Scotty's World, we talked about in the Masters. What he is doing is just incredible. 9 wins now out of 10 between him and now the Miss Corda. Just as I said last week, I'm going to say it again, Brady. This is Tiger and Annika territory now.
It sure is. I wrote a column. It was one that I had some fun with, and I spoke with some professional bettors for the PGA Tour. My recap of Sunday, Monday, the finish there at the RBC Heritage, and I equated it to the glorious phenomenon we had out here for so many years in Las Vegas, betting on Floyd Mayweather. He never lost. And it's a little bit like Scotty Sheffer as of late, and Nelly Corda too. I have bet Scheffler twice in game. I bet him in game on Saturday night before the final round of the Masters, and I bet him at minus 500 after 3 or 4 holes on Sunday at the RBC Heritage, and cashed them both. I mean, when he hit the 4th green in regulation, and I said, okay, that's enough for me. I'm going to go ahead and dive in. And by the time he got to about the 13th hole or something, he was minus 10,000. And I actually did that on Scotty earlier this year. I think it was Bay Hill. I've bet him in game now 3 times. So I am reaping the rewards. I mean, it's hard to bet him pre-tournament because he's, 3 or 4 to 1. But, there comes a point when you're like, he's going to win again. And I'm going to lay the wood. I'm going to eat the chalk. I'm going to bet the minus 150, the minus 500. I think the last time at Bay Hill, I bet him at minus 400. And again, 8 holes later, he was at minus 10,000. So, I've talked to some people this week as well about if it was Jordan Spieth or Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods who had done this type of thing back in the day, it seems like people would be losing their mind. They are not so much with Scotty, it seems. And I think it has to do with his personality. He's kind of the boy next door. He's such a likable guy, but he's so subdued. He's not polarizing. He's very much faith-based, but he doesn't, pile that on, which turns some people off. I think he's just an all-around great character, but probably doesn't move the needle enough for this story to, I think, get the coverage it deserves. I mean, what he's doing is absolutely remarkable. And like you say, it is Tiger and Annika-esque. But it doesn't seem that people outside of, golf enthusiasts and the golf media have really latched on to what a run this is, how special, how magical a run this is. And it's probably all going to be delayed by, God bless, the birth of his first child. That's fantastic. We may not see him again until the PGA Championship, and you wonder if he's even going to make that. I know one thing, bettors are in tune with what Scotty's doing. The number for Scotty Sheffer to win the season slam, to win all 4 majors, was 80 to 1. After he won the RBC Heritage, it dropped to 50 to 1. And I know that bettors are getting in on that. It's down to 40 to 1. Not my money. I'm not going to bet on a guy winning all 4 majors in a year. And maybe I would if there wasn't the first child thing coming along. But I think the PGA could be the real fly in the ointment. And then the British Open is tough too, because that's such a different golf tournament and so many different things can happen, weather and players from all over the world. That one's pretty different as well. But, if everything is going smoothly as far as, newly found fatherhood, the PGA and the U.S. Open ought to be right up his alley. The British could be the tough one to get him over the hump. But I probably won't be diving into that market. At the same time, we probably haven't had a better candidate to accomplish that feat in a long, long time.
And you talked about the 80 to 1, the 50 to 1, now 40 to 1. I saw our good friend, Jeff Sherman over at the Westgate, and he had posted the 50 to 1. I think it was on Friday or Saturday, and then it dropped right down to 40 to 1. And I sent him a little side note and said, hey, Jeff, it looks like you're getting a little more action on that Grand Slam, chuckle, LOL. And I will say this. You talk about in-game betting, and, a lot of people set it and forget it. They'll play the pre-flop, maybe check the leaderboard on Saturday. Some dive into the first-round leaders. Again, we had Scotty plus 1,200 at the Masters. It took a -7 by Bryson we lost that one by 1. But my point here is this is after round 1, there was actually some sports books out there that had Scotty Sheffer plus 900.
Wow.
And there was some people, smart people, obviously, that as soon as it doesn't matter if he was 10 shots back, they see a price of Scotty Sheffer and know what he's capable of, grab the plus 900, and the rest was history there.
Absolutely. And what a grab that was. And I was not one of those people that bet on him, but I was one of those people after Thursday. I was talking with some friends saying, he finishes one shot shy of Bryson DeChambeau there for the first round leader, but still we felt that this tournament might already be over. And in the end, it was. I mean, certainly there was some drama and a lot that we had to go through to get to that final result, but the start that he got off to, a lot of us felt, okay, we know who's going to win already.
So we change gears here. The Zurich Classic in New Orleans. Again, a team event. I have DraftKings pulled up to the left of me here. Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, plus 400. Shane Lowry, Rory McIlroy, plus 700. Will Zalatoris and Thigala, plus 750. Then Kitayama and Morikawa at 1,000. Then you drop down to Taylor, Hadwin plus 1,800. A couple at plus 2,200. It's a week, like you said, we can breathe. Is this a week that you sit and you look and say, I'm going to take some swings further down the board? If some of the top guys beat me, they beat me, but it's a good week to take some deep swings.
I think it is. And I didn't necessarily view it that way. First of all, full disclosure here, I didn't get heavily involved in betting this week, and I don't think a lot of people do. I have an article that's up at PGAtour.com now under Golf Bet, the Prop Farm, which I do every Wednesday, where I speak with a lot of bookmakers and sometimes bettors, and they said the handle's down quite a bit, not a lot of sharp play. And understandably so. This is kind of a breather for everybody after two very big weeks in a row. I played 5 outrights and that was it. Normally I play all my outrights for a top 20 finish as well. I didn't even get involved in that. Just took a swing at a few outrights and left it at that. And who knows? I don't see myself even necessarily getting involved in game this week, unless there's something that really jumps out. Scotty Sheffler's not in the field. I know I won't be jumping on him in game, but taking some bigger swings, I think is certainly something you can do this week. But first and foremost, this handicap is very difficult because week to week, we're trying to hone in on statistics, current form, past history, what they've done at correlated courses. We're looking at all of that for one individual. Now that one individual is pairing up with another individual to form a team. So we don't have history or past results or any sort of historical data on how these two guys perform together as a unit. So I looked at current form. I figure, okay, if both guys come into this event in good current form, that's got to be a pretty good place to start. The other thing I like to look for in tournaments like this, or even a Ryder Cup, something like that, where you have 2-person teams, is complementary skill sets. Like I landed on one team this week, Tom Hoge and Maverick McNeely. Maverick McNeely has one of the best short games in the world. Tom Hoge, conversely, is one of the best ball strikers in the world. So, 2 out of the 4 days, they're going to play alternate shot. I like having a guy that's going to hit nothing but the middle of the fairway and nothing but the middle of the green, paired with a guy that can hole any putt he looks at. So I looked at complementary stuff like that. And a couple of the other plays that I made, taking bigger swings on bigger long shots, they still had some of that handicap involved where, okay, both guys are in pretty good form. One guy plays Pete Dye courses really well. One guy's a good putter. One guy's good at this. I try and it's like when you put a baseball team together or a basketball team, you want a guy that can really shoot. You want a guy that can really dribble. You want to have complementary skill sets. You can't just have everybody on the team 7'4" and all they do is block shots. You got to have a mix of abilities. That's at least my theory for what might work here in New Orleans. And then finally, team chemistry too. Is there a relationship between these two guys? Should they be comfortable playing together? And really almost none of this, Jeff, what makes this handicap tough to bet or this tournament tough to bet is almost none of this stuff we're talking about is quantifiable. It's just an eye test, a hunch, guesswork. It makes sense, but at the end, you don't really know if it's going to work. We don't know if our typical data-based handicap is going to work week in and week out. This week, it's even more so of a needle in the haystack.
Break down the course itself. Again, we go from the Masters to the RBC. Now we're in New Orleans, some good gumbo down there, some good nightlife down there. Just don't go down the wrong avenue or street. We want to see you complete the 4-day tournament there. How do you assess the course itself?
It's a pretty basic setup. It is a Pete Dye design, so you've got some typical Dye characteristics, and I think it does relate to some other Dye designs on tour, like TPC River Highlands, TPCSawgrass Harbor Town, which we saw last week. I don't think it really has a tremendous comparable other golf course we see on a regular basis. So I pretty much just use the Dye design. How do guys perform on Pete Dye designs? A lot of sand, a lot of water. I think it's about half the holes have water in play. And you can kind of imagine that playing in the New Orleans area. It'll be a birdie fest. I mean, the average score, this will be the 7th time. The Zurich Classic has been around for over 60 years, but this is only the 7th time they've played it as a team event. And in the 6 prior editions, the average winning score has been better than 25 under par. So these guys are going to go low. So that's another statistic I looked at, is guys that can make birdies. That's kind of what you want, or I wanted anyway. Guys that for my makeup on my team, strokes gained approach is always something you have to look at. I wanted guys that hit greens in regulation because I don't want them to set their partner up with having to get out of trouble, out of a bunker and scramble and this and that. And then I wanted guys that do well on the par 4s. You've got really short par 4s here or relatively long ones. It's like either 390 or 490. So I looked at guys that do well on long par 4s. I looked at scrambling because there are going to be greens missed. But then, like I say, most of all, it was pretty much current form, making birdies, the complementary skill sets, and chemistry. And, I've done okay in this tournament in the past. I had a couple of near misses last year with Wyndham Clark and Bo Hostler finished top 5, and so did Keith Mitchell and Sungjae Im. I just missed out on the winner. It was Nick Hardy and I'm trying to remember the kid's name right now, out of Alabama, that won this event last year. They kind of came out of nowhere on Sunday. I thought with either Im and Mitchell or Clark and Hostler, I was going to get a winner. Davis Riley and Nick Hardy won it last year and came out of nowhere on the final day. They play 2 different formats too. The Thursday and Saturday are best ball, meaning the best score of the 2 players is what the team score is. So each guy plays their own individual ball. One guy makes a 4, one guy makes a 3. 3 is what you record for that hole. On Friday and Sunday, they play alternate shot, where that team aspect really comes into effect. One guy tees off, the next guy hits the approach, the next guy hits the chip, the next guy hits the putt, whatever, back and forth until the ball is holed. So it's so random. And the best ball typically has much lower scoring than the alternate shot does. So there's just so many variables to this dynamic format, this team dynamic, that it's a very difficult handicap, and you just try and have to make as much sense of it as you can. And like I say, with that all being true, that translates into me risking a lot less money because I know a lot less about what might happen.
Well, it's that time of the show here, so I'm going to bring you front and center for your outrights here in the team event. I'll bring you back, and then we have an added bonus with some live action as well, okay?
Absolutely. Sounds good. So I started not quite all the way to the top of the board. You've got Schauffele and Cantlay, who won this event in 2022 as the shortest price. McIlroy and Lowry, the Irishmen, are very popular. This is the first time Rory's ever played in this event. But I went down to the next one to Colin Morikawa and Kurt Kitayama at 12-1 is where I got them. And probably my main reason for landing on this pair was the current form. Colin Morikawa has been in excellent form. Finished 3rd at the Masters, 9th at the RBC. Kitayama's finished top 35 in, I believe, 3 of his last 4 events. Also had a 19th place finish at TPCSawgrass, which is another Pete Dye design. Now, both of these guys, this is not necessarily complementary skill sets. They're very similar. They're both extremely accurate off the tee. They're excellent ball strikers. And the short game is not necessarily their forte. But Colin Morikawa the last 2 weeks has been red hot with the putter. So if the ball striking remains true for these two guys, both Las Vegas residents, by the way, so I think the camaraderie is there, the chemistry is there. If the ball striking continues and the putting continues the way it has been for Morikawa, I think they're definitely a formidable opponent here. The next 2 ball I went with was Tom Hoge and Maverick McNeely. I mentioned that a little earlier. Total complementary skill sets here. One of the best short games on tour, one of the best ball strikers on tour. And I saw that pairing, and that was one immediately I gravitated towards. They're both in pretty darn decent form too. So they make a lot of sense for me. Got them at 25-1. And then Team Canada that finished runner-up last year, Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin, I got them at 35-1. And this is another duo that definitely has complementary skill sets. Nick Taylor is known primarily as a great ball striker, won at very much of a ball striking course earlier this year, the WM Phoenix, where he held off that man, Scotty Sheffer. And then Adam Hadwin has always been known for the great short game. And Hadwin, you talk about current form. Nick Taylor, 12th at Bay Hill, the win in Phoenix. Also, by the way, top 20 in this field for putting on Bermuda grass. So that's a bonus that he happens to be a pretty darn good putter as well. Hadwin, by the way, I mentioned the short game, but also the current form is there with 3 top 6 finishes already this season and past history here, finishing runner-up last year. So I thought that was a very good play. And I thought 35-1 was a pretty high price on them as well. And then Alex Smalley and Matty Schmid, kind of an interesting pairing here. But it does make some sense to me. I got them at 75-1. Alex Smalley had been in awful form. He had missed 8 cuts in a row prior to last week. The alternate event, the RBC Heritage, was a signature event. The rest of the guys on tour were playing the Corrales Punta Cana, where Alex Smalley finished 6th. So that was a good sign. Matty Schmid's been in very good form, on the other hand. He's had a number of top 20, top 15 finishes. I want to say 3 or 4 already in the last, or this season anyway. He makes a lot of birdies, but both of these guys have really good form over the course of time on Pete Dye courses. So the form of Schmid, the 6th place finish was Smalley, somewhat complimentary on the skill sets. The price was nice. And then the Pete Dye design history. That's what made sense for me on these two guys. And like Jeff talked about earlier, taking a swing a little further down the board. There's a lot of randomness to this tournament. You never know. These guys could find lightning in a bottle and find themselves at the top of the leaderboard at one point. Hopefully they do late Sunday afternoon. And then finally, my last triple-digit bomb here on Nico Echevarria and Max Geiserman. Echevarria, and this is really a current form play. Both of these guys have been in really good form with a few top 20 finishes over their last 5 starts. They both make a lot of birdies. Geiserman is a pretty decent putter. So they have a lot of things, a lot of positives going into this. And a couple of pretty random guys that all of a sudden you see teamed up, and you start digging through some of the stats and what they've done. And you're like, boy, they kind of make sense. And I'm getting it about 100-1. So a flyer there. Obviously, the top 3 plays at shorter prices, more star power, probably make the most quote unquote sense. But like Jeff said earlier, the last 2 plays make sense, but a little bit of a swing at a long shot as well.
I like where your eyes are here. You talked about Morikawa and was in bad form, and it seemed like the trip down Magnolia Lane, the light bulb went on, and he's been in great form the last 2 weeks. You talked about his putter as well. And then Hoge and McNeely. I was looking at the odds before we went live, and I had that start. So at least I feel like we're on the same page there. Taylor Hadwin, and then the last 2 big swings. Again, it's one of these tournaments, correct me if I'm wrong here, unless you really go out and stink the day up and you're not making those birdies, you almost feel like you're technically never out of this, Brady.
Yeah, because the alternate shot can really be volatile. Now, you got to go low on the best ball days. On Thursday and Saturday, you really need to make some birdies. But on the alternate shot days, even par is not a bad score. You'll see a lot of these guys shoot over par during the alternate shot format. And if you can go 4 under par or something like that on an alternate shot day, you're really gaining ground on the field. So you're right. That's probably the mover. The alternate shot days are where you have a chance to come back and get yourself in contention.
Shout out to Mr. Berry and Sports Highlights. Glad you're here watching and listening to us here. Thank you so much, Daniel. Bonus coverage. I heard a few selections from the Live Tour this week.
Yeah, I'm doing a spot on Sports Grid now with Mike Carver, who's another very good golf handicapper, loves to bet golf. We're now doing a spot on Wednesdays when there is a live event. We go over our plays. So I'm diving into that handicap a little bit for the first time. And it was a few weeks back, the week before the Master at Doral, Miami, when I hit Dean Burmester pre-tournament at 28-1. So I should have hung up my cleats and never bet a live event again and just batted 1,000 for my lifetime on that circuit. But I was called to duty once again. And so I came up with 4 plays this week. It's in Australia, Live Adelaide. And I looked at this golf course, very short, under 7,000 yards. I kind of related it to Harbour Town, like we saw last week at the RBC Heritage. Short, tree-lined, claustrophobic, narrow fairways with dog legs in both directions. And so I looked at who's done well at Harbour Town, at TPC Sawgrass, and at Colonial. I thought those courses kind of made good comps for what we have here going this week. And where at Miami, Dean Burmester, a big hitter, a bomber. I looked at bombers when they were on Doral. This week, I went back to, more shorter, plotter, accurate guys. I landed on Tyrrell Hatton at 12-1, who's done wonderful at Harbour Town, Colonial, and Sawgrass. Has finished runner-up, I believe, to Scotty Sheffer last year when Scheffler won the Players' Championship. I think Hatton was second in that go-around. Played him at 12-1. Abraham Answer at 25-1. He won over in Hong Kong earlier on the Live circuit. Again, that shorter, more accurate guy who makes a lot of birdies. He's finished runner-up at Harbour Town. He's never missed a cut at TPC Sawgrass, and he's had a couple of, I think, 3 top 10 or top 15 finishes at Colonial. And then at 60-1, I played Jason Kokrak, who is a bigger hitter, but he's able to take the driver out of the bag and hit a lot of irons off the tee on some of these smaller courses and has great success. He's won at Colonial. He's had a number of top 15. He's finished top 10 at Harbour Town and top 10 at the Players' Championship. So I thought he made some sense. I kind of just had a hunch about Kokrak this week, got him at 60-1, and then 65-1 on Kevin Na, who has had 5 top 10s at Harbour Town, a number of top 10s at the Players' Championship, and has also, like Kokrak, won at Colonial. So, a few shots in the dark. There's only 54 players in the field. I took 4 stabs. That's not a bad percentage going in to increase our chances there. 4 guys out of 54. We were right with Burmester a few weeks ago. We'll see if we can land on another one this week.
I love the correlation. I love where your eyes are. I have some work to do, obviously, after this show here. Shout out to Mr. Sean Alvarez, Mr. Smooth himself. He will be on later next week, of course, for the Run of the Roses and the Kentucky Derby. He gives you a shout out and says, Brady is an incredible golf handicapper. 100% back here on that one, Sean. That's why we have him here, and we're blessed and honored. So I know you have another show coming up in a half hour. The scroll has been going the whole time. They know where to find you on Twitter, on Las Vegas Golfer. They know where to find all your work as well. But as we always do here, I let you close the show where you can tell them yourself where to find all your great, great work and your upcoming show in less than 1/2 hour.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And thank you to Sean as well. I love tracking him on Twitter and checking out who he's playing on the horse racing circuit. Always good information there. And thank you for the kind words. I always feel that my breakdown and my content and the way I'm able to make sense of things is pretty good. But, I've hit about 6 or 7 in-game winners this year. I have still yet to hit a pre-tournament outright. So as eloquent as it sounds here on the program, you got to turn it into wins. Again, we're still winning money in game, but that's not what I'm advertising here on the show with you anyway. So let's hopefully we can get hot here in the, I don't know. I don't even think we're to the halfway point of the season, but it'd be nice to start to get on a roll with some pre-tournament winners. But yeah, I mentioned the article coming up here at PGAtour.com. You'll find the heading there, golf bet. That's all your golf betting content there. I have a prop farm article in which I speak with bookmakers and where people are betting and that type of thing. That comes out on Wednesdays. I will have a mid-tournament report article this week up there. I'll be doing an after the cut article for the PGA Tour this week. And then I always have the Sunday recap. You mentioned Sports Grid. I'll be on there with my friend Joe Ranieri at the top of the hour. And then again with my other friend Gabriel Morency at 10 p.m. Eastern time this evening. Talking a little NFL draft as well. I got involved with a few draft picks. I love the NFL draft, so tune in for that. And like you say, Jeff, you can always find out what I'm doing if you're looking to track me down on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer.
Well, I'll close the show with this. I'm not buying the smoke. I'm not taking the banana in the tailpipe. I'm sticking to my conviction. I think Caleb's going to go 1. I think Jaden Daniels goes to Washington at 2. And the Patriots are going to be sitting there waiting for Minnesota. Unless Minnesota, now McCown is their quarterback coach. Okay, he coached Drake May in high school. Okay, so unless they come forth with a Herschel Walker deal, the New England Patriots will stick and they'll take Drake May. And I think Arizona will then stick and hold form and take Marvin Harrison. So that's my top 4.
Well, I love where you're going there because I have a bet on Joe Alt to be the number 5 pick at 4-1. And you might even find numbers better than that. I've seen as high as plus 475. He's the outstanding offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. And I think the Chargers will grab him at 5.
I can't wait. Next week, where is the PGA?
We head back to the state of Texas for the Byron Nelson, a new sponsor there. It used to be the AT&T Byron Nelson. I believe it's now the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Jason Day, your defending champ, was a pre-tournament outright that we selected on this very show. So if we don't get it this week, hopefully we can renew our love affair with the Byron Nelson next week.
Shout out to Daniel Berry. Shout out to Mr. Smooth himself, Sean Alvarez. Thank you guys so much. Everyone else watching and listening on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever else we are. We can't thank you enough. This is the week. We get the pre-flops. We got the bonus with the live. Go watch Brady in 24 minutes on Sports Grid. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, one, the only Mr. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer. We thank you guys. We will be cashing some tickets this week, and we will see you soon.